How did you get started in magic?
No, how did you
No,
get
no,
started?
how did you?
No. I
No.
basically got bored of wanking in my bedroom.
Jingle time. That is it. That is our introduction for the rest of the podcast.
This is three magicians talking about stuff, life, the universe, and general shenanigans. Hope you enjoy. Let's get right into it.
Boom.
Okay, the questions for this week's podcast is how we started, why we still do it, and 3 problems with the magic.
This could be some kind of sexual advice. I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm trying to do it well.
You are.
Don't insult my podcasting hosting skills.
So how we started, why we still do it, and problems with the magic.
That's what I had written down. Problems with the magic.
So how did I start? I think I was blown. This is going to sound really corny, but I watched some Darren Brown stuff. And I was blown away not by the effect, but by the reaction and by people's reactions to it.
Okay.
That's how I started, and I was like, oh, actually, that might be what I'd like to kind of start replicating somehow. That's genuinely how I started, and I was like, how can I do this? And I found out that actually it takes a lot of work and practice to do like the Mendelism side of it more than magic side, because magic's just like wanky card stuff and everything.
Evidently.
It was just, so I started creating stuff instead, and then I started performing what I'd created, and that's how I got into it.
Tim, how did you start magic?
Yeah, I started, so this goes back quite far, actually, further than I thought. So back when I was younger, I was brought up Christian, like really heavily quite
Were
Christian.
you really?
Yeah, genuinely was. And for a long time, I was very happy being a little Bible bashing Christian. I was pretty much just there. I was a proper knob about it. I was just like, I wanted to be the best Christian ever.
So you were in this cult, and you didn't
basically it felt like it's kind of like that. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But like as I grew up, it sort of dwindled. My faith sort of dwindled, and like because being a Christian was such a big part of who I was and how I saw myself. Like when I started losing my faith, I felt like I was losing like part of me. Like I felt a bit lost. But around the same time, I read Darren Brown's book because my friend introduced me to it. And then in that he like dispelled miracles and like how we can get fooled by lots of like religions and stuff like that, and how harmful it can be for some people. He also said how good it can be for some people. So I'm not slating that. I'm at peace with everything. Religion's wonderful for some people. But around the same time, I read Darren Brown, and that completely dispelled me of my belief. So after reading Darren Brown's book, I completely didn't believe anymore. But that meant a large part of how I saw myself was gone. So I need to latch onto something else, and the closest thing was magic. So I kind of chucked myself into that instead, and saw myself as the magician. And for a while, like that was cool. While I still thought magic was real. But then I learned how it was done. I was devastated. I saw like a rising card trick and saw how it was done. I was like, that's not magic. That's ridiculous. But then after a while, I began to actually perform and see the reaction again of what you said. See the reaction. You're like, this is what it's about. You're giving that to someone else. It's not for you. It's for someone else. It was wonderful. Yeah, that's how I got started, and I didn't stop because now it's a part of me.
Do you feel like if you stopped performing or learning magic now, you would be kind of lost at sea?
Yes, I did for a bit, because I sometimes get disheartened with it, because a lot of it's not the life I want. Sometimes I don't always want to be at nights going out to pubs and doing it all the time. I kind of like the rest of my life. I like having both. So I stopped a bit, and then I know, it just didn't feel right. I keep on coming back to it. It's the one thing I keep on coming back to over the years, and it's still something that's just that joy of giving someone that moment and like trying to do it myself. So trying to figure out how to trick someone into believing something that's entirely possible, that is within the realms of life, because we have to, into thinking that is impossible.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, because that is messing with your perception. That's like tripping up your brain. In like we all obviously perceive something in such a rigid way that people have learned how to skip over that and just make you believe it's impossible, and that is amazing. That's the bit that keeps me coming back, is to go, how do you do that? Because I love that feeling. Watching like Darren Brown do his trick where there's someone's dead grandmother's names engraved into a coin inside like a box and a box and a box.
But
And
what you see is like amazing and magic is entirely different to the audience as well,
Yeah.
because you already know how a lot of stuff is done and how a
So
lot of
hard.
psychology works,
Yeah.
everything else. Blah, blah,
yeah,
blah, blah,
that's the point I'll come to later. But yeah,
excellent.
that's all in there.
It's all in there.
It's all in there. So, Joe, how's your mum? What's she doing?
She's well. She's very well.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
I'm just waiting for someone to very nicely ask me how I started magic. I had a bit of a roundabout way of getting into magic. I wasn't interested in performing or doing anything magical or creating wonder for people. I just picked up a deck of cards and did all the fancy shuffles and manipulation, and then I realised that if I could do this, then how hard could magic be?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then as soon as I got into the magic side, I found that it was quite a good outlet for me, because I was very socially awkward and inept. So I found it as a good outlet to kind of try and be someone who I wasn't.
Ooh.
I think you shouldn't have agreed so much when you said socially inept.
No, I was going to say was.
Promise.
We're all slightly socially inept here, though. That's part of the.
All right.
I don't know, the interest of it actually. I think it's.
Casanova.
You're not.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry to just pause the kind of podcast, but we have just had our first question on the live stream from Zach Owen.
Zach.
So who we very much duly love.
He's the man. He's the
Zach,
man.
nice one.
Big up
So
to Zach,
so
love.
we're just gonna have to take a. So we're. So we're just gonna because I posted up ask questions, so I don't want to say ask questions and then not
Okay.
answer them. So Zach Owen's question is, what's the best and worst thing that has happened to you due to magic?
That's a very interesting question, actually. I like it.
I don't even know. Right.
Who
we'll
wants
start
to-
someone
Who wants to bat this?
rock paper
first?
scissors.
I've just got the stick.
Okay, you start.
I've got the
Stick
talking
wins.
stick.
Rock paper stick.
Best thing to happen to me was actually meeting like-minded people who have got a very similar sense of humour, not necessarily style, but just the way that they perceive life as well. And yeah, I think that genuinely was one of the nicest things to ever happen as well, and kind of like going to places like Tabula Mentis and doing like lectures and stuff to people and showing them how to produce and how to make things, and just meeting really interesting other creators as well was incredible actually, and really nice, like meeting like Colin McLeod and people like that, and just and just like chat away to them, and Phil Smith and people like that as well. It's just been nice to meet them. And yeah, worst thing that's happened is, now I can't actually think of one.
Tim?
Best thing was doing my first big show. We took literally like 6 months to prepare for this. It was with me and my friend David, and it was at like one of the local venues. It was fairly big, a good 200-300 odd people on 2 nights in a row. And for me that was a big deal. And we had one of my friends who is an actor, and like he's like 40, 50 now, and he knows his stuff. So we had him directing it.
Okay.
So it felt like a real thing. It felt like something like not just
Solid.
a show in a pub to like some mates and your parents, like and
'Cause
some
we've all
drunk
been
guy.
there.
Because and it was like 6 months worth of just intense thing, and then we finally got there, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna forget everything. I don't remember anything. And then I got in there, and it went perfectly. It was like heaven on earth, and it was such a vibe. It was a Saturday night, and just the whole thing was just, everyone just loved it, and you just felt in the mood, and everyone was there with you, and it was like they had to add extra seats in order for people to get in there. Like, it was just one of my favourite things. And we got off, and we forgot to turn off our mics, but we went to each other and we screamed like yes, and then so everyone else heard that. And
That's
like,
amazing.
And then they told me afterwards, they're like, oh, you screamed, and I was like, yeah, shh.
Shh, no one else heard.
It was such a good feeling. Like I actually felt like I did something with my life for change.
Oh,
Like,
Rather than just make coffee.
well, yeah, I know, but like it felt like something. But contrast to like the week afterwards, after we finished, I felt so depressed. It was like an after show blues. I was just sat there like, what do I do with my life now? Do I do it again? Like, what's going on? And yeah, it was
feel
just,
like you've reached the peak of your career.
that's it. That's that done. Yeah, nothing else. Joe, what's the best and worst things that's happened to you due to magic?
probably street performing.
Oh god.
Well, best and worst together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Good answer.
Be-
I like.
best-
Yeah.
Best and worst thing to ever happen to me whilst doing magic is street performing. I mean, the past 2 days have been probably the 2 best days of my life.
No.
Yeah.
Really.
Nice
one.
Just because I genuinely love performing for absolute strangers that I know that if I'm bad, they can just leave. So there's no like false commitment, or they haven't paid anything, so they're just staying to get their money's worth. And there's just something so raw and beautiful about street performing that once you've locked in an audience and you've engaged with them, and they're on your side, and it's just riffing and everything's kind of like organic and just flowing. It's the best feeling I've ever had. But also,
I love that.
to get to that happy place where where everything's just amazing, you have to physically go from no one caring about you to going, you know, your classic like roll up, whatever you want to say, and it's walking out into the street with no one knowing who you are or what you're about to do, and just putting yourself completely out there. That moment before you open your mouth to say anything, literally I would rather feel death than have that, but it is getting better. So, but it's that the worst thing to happen whilst doing magic is that gut-wrenching feeling where you would literally rather be dead than to start your show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you still get that, Joe?
Yeah, all the time.
Every show that you perform, the first bit is that kind of like. Oh.
Yeah, every
Good.
time.
That's really nice to hear, actually.
It's a positive thing to hear for other people out there.
As
As
sad
well.
as that is, that it never goes away.
Just to give a bit of context to people who don't know us, I have been street performing for 4 years. This is my 5th season performing on the street, and I still feel like I want to crawl up in my bed and die quietly, rather than saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my show," when nobody's watching you. It's that bad.
Can I ask a
I
question on
get
top
that.
of that?
Yeah.
How do you overcome that every time? What
I-
gives you
I-
the drive?
Sorry, I don't overcome that every time. Sometimes I go to start and then go, oops, no, actually I'm okay, and I don't start.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's quite humbling.
Like, and I think that was one of the things I learned. I forget it very, very frequently, but that fear doesn't go away. You just do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, for me still at the moment, more often than not, I go, no, I'm okay, which is a bad thing. But yeah, like, I mean, sometimes you just have to go, fuck it. Okay, I'll die now. And you say you say hello to people.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you've got, you know, one person who vaguely cares a little bit about you,
A little bit.
it suddenly the gate's unlocked and you're in, you're flowing, and everything's hunky dory again.
Yeah, and like that feeling when you don't do it is like such a depressing feeling when you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I let myself down. Oh
Yeah.
God, this is like, so actually doing it, as horrible as it is, it's the better of the two evils.
I mean, not for a long time now, but I still remember going out to do street performing and going home 5 hours later, not doing a single thing, not saying a single word, and just standing on the street like an idiot. I still have days like that where I don't overcome that feeling at all, and I go home and I pretty much curl up in a ball and feel like dying.
I'm glad. That,
No,
I'm
no,
not glad, but like
I get where Tim's coming from.
that's nice to know because we all get that. I think I'm glad. It's nice to hear that said out loud from someone that's performing.
Can I, to add to that as well, I think that nowadays, with a lot of things, because of social media that we're in at the moment, a lot of things are seen as having to be perfect and that attainment of perfection. And actually, if you watch real world theatre, real live theatre, in any kind, including magic, whatever it is performance-wise, the majority of the time there are little errors and things. People do fuck up a little bit here and stuff and everything, but that doesn't make them unprofessional, doesn't make them not good. It makes them human, and we need to I think we need to not drop our expectations. I think we need to get a bit more real and take these blinkers off as well, because as like Joe said, you've been doing it for 5 years now as well, and you're still getting these days when that happens. And actually it might be nice for people who are just starting out as well to hear that kind of stuff, because most of the stuff they read and hear about is just people going off and and off they go, and it's like, shit, why can't I be like him? Which makes you even worse and makes you even more downhearted.
Yeah. Thank you, Zach. But
yeah, cheers, Zach. That was a really, I thought a really interesting question.
I liked it.
We do have one more question on the Facebook from another good friend of mine.
Is his name Zach?
No, but we will.
Great.
I'm very sorry. He might not be still watching now because you know
It's gone in a while.
it's gone on a little while since he's asked this question. But we do have to crack on with the actual official questions.
Purely because my missus is coming home in about 10 minutes. So yeah, quite good.
But we will, I promise, answer Seb's question when we
What is
start.
Seb's question?
Seb's question is: have any of you ever tried to learn an
thanks.
effect and just got the comment from Seb going, "I'm still watching."
Thanks.
So we appreciate that.
Big up, Seb.
We've got a
Someone
fan.
else.
So you tried to learn an effect?
No. Have any of us
Yeah.
ever tried to learn an effect that we have just not ever been able to get the hang of, regardless of how much we've tried?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Seb, your answer is yes. From all three of us, is yes.
A resounding yes, I might add. Nice one, Seb.
That,
Cheers.
that's what we're gonna say
Cheers,
to that. Okay, so back to the official questions.
Can I ask this next question, but in a slightly different way?
Yeah.
Leading on from it, why do we still do magic, and do we still do it for the same reasons that we started doing it?
Wise young man.
Thank you, because I'm not so young.
I still do magic because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah.
No,
Fine.
I'm going to be completely honest. I still do magic 50-50 because it earns me money. And I know that's an awful thing to say.
No, it's not.
To still do something, but it's a career that I'm just about getting off the ground, in which I do actually earn a fairly decent amount of money at from time to time. So I still do it because of that. But then I think like a 60% rather than 50-50 would be because when it actually is working, for me magic is the best feeling I get. So like a 40-60 split for why I still do it is money, and it's one of the best feelings ever. So I think combined, that's like an amazing opportunity to have a career. Making money
Agreed.
at something that you genuinely love doing. So that's why I still do it.
That goes back to one of my very first things about how we got started and everything.
Yeah.
It's that connection. It's that it doesn't matter what it is, but it's that connection and that way that you can link and create something with somebody else, not for someone but with, and that's a really powerful.
So I still do magic for the reason Christo started magic.
These on to you. Go, homie.
Why do you still do magic, Christo?
Genuinely for the exact. So that's the only reason why I changed the question slightly, so I can just say well, just exactly for the same thing.
That's you done.
That's
Easy.
me done. Boom. And yeah, that is the aim. That is the reason. And I don't feel like I'm at the end. I'm kind of in a journey at the moment, and I kind of go through phases of wanting to do stuff and then not, and wanting to do. But actually, I think I finally accepted the fact that I'll always love what I do, and I'll love magic. The biscuit is coming out. Wait for it. Oh, nice one, Joe. Where was I?
You still love what you do.
Yeah, still love what I do. So actually, sod it, I'm gonna keep doing it. Even
Cool.
and there's no kind of stopping it in that way. But I think where my journey's going is a journey that's quite unexpected. Going from kind of mentalism, trying to figure out, oh, actually this is okay, but it's not sitting okay with me. To now going into reading, and actually, I'm now starting to answer the question and the reason why I started to begin with, and have found an outlet for why I started in the first place, and that's having that real connection, and that's where kind of the palmistry comes into it as well, and starting to read people and kind of sit down and give them advice in some kind of esoteric kind of way. That's why, and I'm starting to feel more settled now as well, and I've done I think about a month and a half now of solid every day, like 2-3 hours worth of practicing for something that I've got coming up, and it's all
What
to
do
do with
you
kind
have coming up?
I want to get on the streets, but not as a street performer, and basically
I've got competition.
what I'm going to do is take Joe's spot,
Yeah.
set up like a little wigwam stall selling like little necklaces and stuff, and basically boot Joe out of Brighton.
Yeah. Happy. Yeah.
You heard it here first.
I vote too.
But on a more important, I want to be able to get out on the streets, because especially for readings and stuff, the main thing you do with readings is the more readings you do, the better you get at readings, and that's what I want to do. I'm going to just set up. I'm going to start offering free palm readings to people as well, and just talk to people, just build a connection with them, a genuine connection. And from the work that I've been doing, I know from a guy called Richard Webster, who's an incredible kind of person in that area, I know that it's going to be really successful, and it's one of the first things that I've actually put in a lot of work to over a long time, and I haven't kind of felt my interest dipping.
Yeah. Good.
And it's still there.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm onto something good.
Actually, something you like.
Yeah. And this
This
is
sits well with you.
exciting, and I'm chomping at the bit, but I'm also quite an impatient person. But
me too. Yeah.
I know. And usually I just want to be able to do it. I want to be able to do it. But this time, actually, I know that I want to be able to do it so badly that actually I'm stopping myself from being impatient, and I'm just getting on with it.
That is.
Yeah.
Straight
There we
from
go.
a very, very interesting point about something that settles well with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I struggle with magic, for reasons we'll talk about later. But
It doesn't sit well with you, does it? Some of it.
sometimes something doesn't. Yeah, and then so I have to,
Why have I got?
in a way, create tricks for myself.
You okay?
You got blood? What's going on?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a bit from my moustache. I thought it was a bug or something, but I just started rolling it around my mouth. And
What is this?
Anyway,
Caviar.
sorry, Terence.
Terence and Philip.
Who's Terence?
Yeah, so stuff that doesn't sit well with you. So, like, well, I'm going to answer the question even though no one asked me about it.
just Steve
So
on,
Tim,
Steve on.
what doesn't work for you?
No, not that one.
Oh.
What doesn't
Why do I
sit
sit-
well with you?
Oh, why do I still do magic? Okay.
No, you
So why do you still do magic, Tim?
It was a segue.
Nice.
Thanks. So to that point, I still do magic because I love creating stuff myself that fools people. Okay, so even if like it's not entirely mine, what I do, like I take bits and pieces and mash them together, which is creating anyway. But I struggle with a lot of magic because a lot of it's shit, and a lot of magic like isn't actually that fooling.
Is it shit and not fooling for you though? That's the question.
No, I believe a lot of it isn't fooling for a lot of lay people, but we just fool ourselves into believing it actually is.
Okay.
I think because people are too polite, or because
Yeah.
we blase over it, or some reason it isn't actually that fooling for everyone else. So, and I'm...
Interesting.
Oh, thanks, man.
So Joe, how did you?
No, we've done me. No. Shh. This isn't going to be edited, but no, that's really. Oh, I've forgotten. That's a really interesting point to actually throw to the people listening. Is who actually watches magic, who's not a magician, who is too polite to say, no, we know how you did that.
Good point. Very good
I
question.
like it.
Yeah.
It'd be really good to hear the actual people's response to that. So if you're watching now live and you're not a magician, who I don't think anyone actually is, but
hey.
but leave in the comments below your opinion on where magic is for you, and if you've ever seen a magician do a trick where you know how he's done it and haven't told him, or whether you think magic is always quite fooling. Especially the people listening on the podcast.
Tomato sauce.
You've got tomato sauce on your
My
moustache.
mustache. That's where it's all coming from. I was wondering why I'm bleeding. It's moustache tomato sauce.
So on the podcast. So for you guys listening on the podcast, oh fuck. The continuity in this tiny little segment is going to be so bad. So for any of you who are actually still, I can't pick it up. We'll gloss over it. It's fine.
Cool.
This is delicious.
I've got Christo licking a fake moustache.
It's not fake. We said we'd never talk about it.
and I'm trying to enjoy a Cadbury's cream egg and.
Okay, so back.
Okay,
back
last.
Yeah.
So for you who are listening, please leave. You just rustled.
Dear listeners,
if you have an opinion about magic and whether it's fooling or whether magicians fool themselves into thinking it fools you, if you've ever had an experience where you've seen a magic trick that hasn't fooled you, but you have been too polite to say to them in person, please leave in the comments below your take on magic.
I think that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Can I add one last tiny snip to that as well? Is that there's a reason as well, I think, why you're asking, as soon as you enter into any kind of like the magical kingdom, as it were, whether it be mentalism or whatever, whether it's psychology or sleight of hand or stuff, as soon as you start doing that, that whole sense of wonder disappears, and you know how a lot of it is done straight away, so it's very hard to be unbiased. And it would be lovely to hear, it would be genuinely interesting to hear what other people's who are non-magic-y, their take on it. We can't ask our partners or friends or anything, because they see so much stuff that it's biased, but good question.
You
Joe.
can't go back almost.
Good question.
Once you've entered, you can't go back, and it's really hard to see what magic's like for someone who doesn't know how it's done.
Except for that trick which Joe showed me the other week, and that took me right back. And
I love that.
Oh, it was stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Watching a trick you don't know.
Watching something that I didn't want to know as well, and that I couldn't even fathom it. I just went on with it as well.
So back to it. Problems with magic. Why do I still do it? I still do it because I want to create something that seems impossible, and that's something we can just mess with people's minds. And the way I get the enjoyment out of that is by creating that myself, by figuring out a puzzle. You're trying to go, is this falling? Is this falling? And then you put it all together, and it's all the seamless thing where someone goes, how the boom, the holy does that happen? And you're left with that groundless feeling that is just wonderful to experience. That's how I do it. Carry on.
Great.
So,
Right, last question.
Last
Fire
question.
with these.
Last question. So, final question. Problems with magic.
go.
So on my notes, most of it is bad because people forget. Most of it's bad, basically, because magicians forget what is actually falling. They kind of are in the magician mindset and can't take themselves out of it. So they do certain things that they think is good because there's all these moves and like that. But people see something going on, they're like, "That you did something. I don't know what you did, but you did something." So people kind of forget how to make a trick that's actually falling. That's one of my problems.
Mhm.
The second one is everyone copies each other because there's only a certain amount of tricks that you can do. No one really takes the time to just like create their own stuff, even to mix stuff together. Everyone just kind of comes out as a factory. It's like a factory of magicians. You'll see most working magicians do like some kind of
Carbon copy. Basically.
carbon copy of each other, especially like in the Magic Circle. Sorry, but they all look exactly the same. Go onto the Magic Circle's website and look at all the magicians listed, and they have usually like a deck of cards like this and some fire.
That's it.
And
Or the mind readers
the
are all
mind
like
readers
this.
and like that. They're always
Yeah.
like the same. No one's actually themselves. And for me, the way to be myself is actually go out there and be like, it's just a trick, but I love this. So you kind of just
And
gotta
that
be
works
real.
for you.
But that,
Keep it real.
But then, just to counter that, that is pretty much a carbon copy of Penn and Teller.
Yeah, but like so you got like nothing's original. So there's a couple of things. This is a hard subject
Piff the
to
Magic
raise.
Dragon is original.
Very fucking original. But then there had to be Puff the Magic Dragon before, for there to be Piff the
But
Magic Dragon.
he wasn't performing magic, was he?
No, but like so someone
amazing.
once made a really good point that there's nothing new. You just kind of mash from different sources. So no one really bothers to. So it's a good idea just to take different sources and take inspiration from everything else and put it into one. That will make you much more original.
Tim, I've got to stop you there. And I've got to disagree with you on one point as well.
Go.
Is the thing and the underlying thing which is actually different and original is you.
Yeah.
Fuck everything else as well. It's the magic tricks. They've all been done before and stuff. It is you. That is the original thing. That's the only thing that's actually original, and the element in that is you. So have this big knowledge database of all these techniques. Think how you want something to look like, and then try and create it using your knowledge database, and then you'll create something which is more to you.
Yes.
The techniques have been used
Yes.
for centuries,
Yeah.
but actually you are the original aspect of that whole thing, and that's your selling point. That's you.
That is, I think we came together and with your mine. No, sure. Right. No. Yeah, cool. So the third thing I also don't like about magic is really obvious patter. So what most magicians will do is they'll go, here I have an ordinary deck of cards, or here is a red ball. Who gives a fuck? We know that.
Yeah.
Like you need to put this like.
I am
we
just
stop-
putting this pen onto
In
my hand
here.
here, and now I am presenting the pen to you like this.
Yeah, exactly like that. Or they'll go the other way around and you'll do like a simple card trick and they'll be like, this is like chaos theory where life isn't real and you're my mother. And like so shit like that is just fucking ridiculous.
Freudian.
Like, that is too far out from what you actually are doing. Like chill out. So really crap patter. But like the main one is the obvious patter. So this is why Teller doesn't speak, because he hated that. He hated that whole thing. And his belief is that the lie you tell yourself is more falling than the lie a magician tells you. So if you see a deck of cards and you shuffle them yourself, you think, oh, they're a normal deck of cards.
Mm-hmm.
But if a magician was to give it to you and say they're a normal deck of cards, see, you're going to be like, fuck off.
That's it.
Nah, that's not.
That's it.
So like showing,
it's
not telling.
It's not just even the audience shuffling the cards. If they can see as you're chatting naturally that you shuffled them, that's also a way to kind of give that kind of divide and that
exactly.
break in it as well.
And it's showing, not telling. So, like, a lot of magic's like watching a really bad film where they do lots of flashbacks where they're like, oh, I was hurt, my mother died. But, like, really bad. They're telling you what the character's like as opposed to showing you in the way he acts and the way he reacts to situations. It's the worst form of theatre is most magic. They're going, here you go. Oh, look, and it appears I'm like, oh, ooh. I'm like, fuck off. Like, we know, we don't need to be like modicon.
Yeah.
Those are my three problems. I don't.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Really good.
Thanks, man.
Nice.
Anyone else's?
So-
Seeing as you left.
You just removed his only chest hair.
I was working on that. I've been growing it for years.
Get back in your.
He's a little bit ginger.
Ginger.
Well, because you asked, folks, my three problems.
Yeah, well,
with
what are
magic.
your 3 problems with magic, Christo?
Ginger, fake moustaches, and sunglasses. And on a different note, I could get on a little soapbox about this and rant about it for a long time. I'm just going to cross my legs. I'm getting a bit more settled now. Problems with magic. I think for me the biggest one is the ego massage of the magician, and the fact that a lot of people, a lot of magicians, a lot of people who just perform magic because they just want to perform some magic and stuff, aren't maybe doing it for, I'm not going to say the right reasons because that's a little bit contradictory, but just doing it for, they haven't thought about it properly. They haven't thought about what they want. So when they kind of, as you say, like when they show and they say, pick a card, any card, and then they do this and they do that, they're only doing it to fool the other person and to make them feel good about themselves. I've got one up on you, I've got one over on you, that kind of thing. That's what I have a problem with. They're not doing it to with the mindset of, I want to show you something so you can be entertained, amazed, to be touched, to be to enrich your life some way, no matter how small. That's why I'm doing it. Most people forget that. And I think if you go into it with the mindset of enriching someone else's life, they will take you more seriously, they will warm to you more as well, and they'll take something far greater away from that as well, I think, than,
you can tell
any kind of ego wanking
you
that
can
goes
really
on.
tell when someone's doing it for themselves as well, like everything just leaks through, unless you're really good at acting, but most people just, everything leaks through. It's
that flashiness, it's the things which are, I mean, you guys all do like cardistry and stuff and everything, but when you're performing tricks and then suddenly you see somebody then starting to do loads of cardistry, you can see everyone just kind of going, and so what, just like...
So I'm just going to interrupt you there, Christo. I've never had an audience seemingly go, he's doing cardistry now. Maybe because I don't do it in the way that you're describing.
That's it. Because I've seen you work as well, and you do it as part of an act, whereas what I'm talking about is people who do it to show off in terms of, look what I can do clever with cards kind of thing.
For sure.
That's what I'm talking about. That's kind of, that's my point.
And I think that is the difference. I mean, if you're a magician who happens to be able to handle a deck of cards well, and you manage to find it in your own natural performance to slot it in and use it without being forceful to slot it in just so you can show them that you can shuffle a deck of cards, I think it works.
Absolutely. But that also, I said that also goes for mentalists. A lot of mentalists say, I don't want to use cards in my effects and stuff and everything else. Well, actually, if you look at it not from a magic point of view, but from a professional point of view, if you're a professional and you've been around a lot of tools and everything else, you're going to use what's available. Cards are instantly recognisable. And they're like, oh, but we've got to be seen to not be able to shuffle cards very well, because then it will give the impression that we're kind of like doing something funny with cards. Actually, as a mentalist, if you're working with cards all the time, professionally, you're going to be adept with cards and be able to shuffle them and stuff. That's kind of this the backstory side of it, and that doesn't quite make sense. People are saying, I've got to be able to shuffle them, but I shouldn't show that I should be able to shuffle them well because I don't want to come across as a card person. But if you're coming across a professional who uses cards all the time, you've got to be able to do that. Surely that's part of...
No!
I believe that you're allowed to use them. I don't think anyone should care.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. You shouldn't...
just do it.
Yeah.
Just calm down.
Yeah.
But I will disagree with both of you slightly.
Of course you will.
If a mentalist is using a deck of cards better than anyone has ever seen in their life, and then goes, and I haven't even touched the cards that you've done, then that's where it gets annoying. So when
absolutely.
1 sec. when a pure like mentalist kind of mind reader-esque type performer is seen to shuffle cards really well, like to the point where it's stupid, then I go, well, okay, you're performing it as
That's
mind reading,
yeah.
but we can clearly see that you're probably manipulating the deck rather than the audience.
But that's genuinely not what I'm talking. I'm talking about going from something like where I'm just going to mix the cards like that to actually, most people who play poker or who work with cards from the very start, they know how to kind of just do this. And I'm saying that the people who kind of say, oh, shouldn't even be riffle shuffling and that.
Oh,
kind of
for
stuff.
sure. Like
That's what
yeah.
I'm saying.
Like
yeah.
if it's
I shouldn't be able to be seen to have any kind of skill with cards whatsoever, because that will somehow telegraph that I'm doing some kind of trickery with cards.
no, you should be able to be at a certain standard with a deck of cards.
That's it.
Because again, like you are handling a deck of cards in your job, so you should have at least some skill with it. But when it gets beyond that and you're doing all the cardistry funny showing off,
That's it.
whilst you're trying to read their mind, that's where it goes.
This. I think this is the difference as well. It's like you're coming to it from like the cardistry kind of perspective of kind of that kind of things. Whereas I genuinely, all I can do is pretty much shuffle a deck of cards, and that's it. But even then, some mentalists, I'm talking from the mentalist perspective, are saying shouldn't use cards, and if we do use cards, we shouldn't even be able to shuffle a deck of cards.
I think there's a good point for that, but yeah, two sides to the argument. Like you should be of some standard, but you shouldn't be over the top.
That's it. Boom.
Krista, Tim has something to say.
So I think it's all about context, right? So, thank you. So Darren Brown, so this is just an example, he used to do like a whole set of just amazing card magic. He's a wonderful card magician.
He's incredible.
Spectacular. And then he used to put them down and then just do mentalism. So I do, like, I can do both. I can do the mentalism and I can do the card stuff. Not to any particular standard, but I can do them. For me, it's about how you do it in the instant. So say I was doing a mentalist trick, I would be as far away from the cards or handle them as cleanly, as fairly as possible. So I think that's the bit you have to stress, because you're stressing different points in a trick. Okay, so like when you're doing cardistry, you're going, look, I am good, don't worry, it's going to be a good show. This is why I'm shuffling in this way, so you kind of relax and go, oh, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not going to see just some crap magician that can't shuffle a deck of cards. This is what I think both our points in cardistry is about. And it looks,
I agree with all this as
and
well.
it's quite
by the way,
flashy,
but
and people
completely.
kind of go, it's interesting to watch. But when it comes to mentalism, I don't think you should be doing that with it, but I think you could, realistically, so long as you take away from it and then go, now we're doing something different. Now I'm not going to fucking touch it. Now I'm going to stay away from it. Look, I can't think of it, I'm doing it. Like, you have to stress different points.
I don't think you should stress it, though. I think if you have, like, 2 sections in your stage show where the first half, like, you're bang, 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 you're flashy with the deck of cards, you're great, you're doing whatever, and then you swap it to the mentalism. I don't think you should stress that change. I just think that you go all hands in and do your thing for the first half, and then kind of slowly step back. And don't say, I'm not going to shuffle.
No.
But physically just hand the deck of cards to them, let them shuffle. Don't try and then act like you can't shuffle or that you're not trying to shuffle.
No, that's it.
Or like
you're
going,
changing
look,
your premise.
Look, I'm not doing anything funny, and then trying to mash them together in a weird, awkward way. Just throw the deck to them, get them to shuffle. I mean,
because then it contradicts everything that you've done before.
Yeah.
So
Without even having to.
It's jarring.
You don't say anything, you just do it.
You just do
show,
it.
not tell.
Which is a great thing to perform by, not live by, but perform by. Is show and not tell.
No, because you get arrested if you live by that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Joe, I've just trodden on the biscuit box.
3 things. Oh, you're
3 problems with magic for you. Because as we were taking a little break there, whilst one of us had a shower, I was going to say my other 2 we've already covered as well, which is kind of, but she's out, it's fine, is kind of taking the techniques and making them your own and kind of creating something original to you, even though it might have been done before in other ways, because you've created it yourself, it's come from you, and you are ultimately the most original element of your act. So, Joe, on to you. Gunshot fire in Bedford Square. Your favourite? No, your 3 problems. What are your 3 problems with magic? Because I don't see them written down anywhere like we've done.
No,
We're professionals and we've done this officially.
Both Christo and Tim have spent the last week really strenuous. You're screwing them up now.
Well, we're done.
Have spent the last week strenuously writing down their answers, whereas I have come blank canvas into this podcast. So I do not.
Unprepared, some might say.
So I do not have
Fetal.
any problems with magic that I can list here because there are far too many for me to even get into it.
But if you were to get into it, Joe, if you were just to get in, just dip your tip into those first few problems of magic.
That's another. That's the name of our podcast. Dip your tip. Dip your tip. Hashtag dip your tip.
If you were to dip your wand into the
Dip
problems,
Dip
your tip. Dip tip.
Dip tip. Hashtag
What
dip tip.
would be one of your biggest problems? Is it other people taking your pitch?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. No, I mean, I can think of. Okay, so I'm going to be honest. I can't think of any on the spot, but I know I have always had lots of problems with magic. I can't think of any right now. I think you both said the best, most obvious ones and kind of gone into a good amount of detail into those. So I don't want to reiterate anything that we've covered already. I'd probably touch briefly on everyone coming factory prepared. I mean,
I just like it if you stop there. I'd like to touch briefly on everyone coming.
What would that mean? Hey, what would?
I don't know.
I don't
Factory
understand
prepared.
that.
Factory prepared.
Factory prepared. I mean, again, I don't want to say. I'm not going to say it because I'd regret it. But there are a lot of magicians and performers that are very the same. And I think that's my biggest one. I mean, because it's the hardest one to do is to be original. I mean, it's fairly hard to learn a trick. It's fairly hard to be natural. It's fairly hard to be likable. But the hardest thing to be is original. Because, like we've said, everything has been done. Magic has been around for so long now, and there's so many people doing it now, that you can't possibly be original, totally to the core.
Piff.
But he's not. If you looked back at comedians and performers, there's versions of Piff.
There is, but there's nothing like him, is there? It's like there's nothing really like Penn and Teller. And that's why they've become so successful, they're so well known, because they are so unique and original. And of course everything has its roots in everything else and everything else and everything else. But it's whether it's art or music or magic or whatever you want to go into, there is always elements that you're going to have to take in, because that's how our brains work. We have to pull things from other places. Tim's just picked up my wooden stick, so Tim.
I'll just have something quick point. I feel like
it is a
quick point. It's a very quick point. Something quick to say on that. Basically, I feel like most of magic goes in tides. Okay, so everything almost pushes against it. So what Penn and Teller did, their genius, is that most magicians were seen as these. It was the guy Hollingworth. They were very suave, everything. They didn't give anything away. And Penn and Teller were like the badasses. They came in and it was like they showed you a trick, if they fucking want to show you a trick, how it's done. And then they were just badass. They were hardcore with it. They were stabbing things with their hands.
But they were also very elegant with that. I mean,
completely.
Their argument of their reveals, that they put a lot of effort and time and thought into what tricks they reveal.
Weren't stupid.
That's it.
Because even they've said, we only reveal tricks that we feel that once we've revealed them, it makes the trick better.
Yes.
Yeah, or something so little.
Yes. Well, like the cups and balls.
Oh,
that one that they did with clear plastic cups, and
you still don't see shit.
You're still in
but that's because their skill, their misdirection, their timing, everything is so wet. So, and their personalities. You're more watching them. You're more listening to them and paying attention to them than even when they're saying, "Look here," they're like.
Yeah, that your point is they're very thought out through. They weren't stupid with it. They were so clever with it. Yet they were being the badasses of the magic, and then sort of Darren Brown came and did something completely different and did this whole like mind completely serious stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like now there needs to be a push against him.
Well, it was almost like it was like a gentleman mind reader almost, but and like, so I'll take the psychological premise, because at the time that's kind of the thing that people will buy. But actually, and people I think are emulating Darren Brown and the psychological side of it, because they think that that's the easiest route, because that's what people buy, because it's the most plausible. But actually, look at Uri Geller.
Oh yeah.
And look at what he did in the 80s and 90s, and he just came out with it all out. He was just like, I can bend metal with my mind, I can make watches stop, and people believed it as well. They bought it.
If you look back at Uri Geller now, we go, come on, man.
Exactly, the timing. It's about the timing.
Exactly.
You've got to find that thing that's on the rise now.
On the cusp.
Cusp. Such a good word.
I mean, the same might happen to Darren Brown, but I very much doubt that.
No, because there is that plausibility, that believability behind it as well. Of course there is, and you'll always get the believers and the non-believers and everything. Actually, that's probably another thing for another time as well. It's probably another topic I'd quite like to get onto as well.
I think we should go into what we're going to talk about next week.
Well, we don't know for sure, because we haven't. I mean, questions and stuff that people are going to come to.
I think it'd be really cool to give advice for up-and-coming magicians, potentially.
Yeah.
Because that thing about the gigs was wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, I think we could delve deeper into some good advice of how to, like, approach your first gig.
Yeah, absolutely. And not even just from a magic perspective, from a professional perspective as well, and kind of, the way that's done as well. There's a lot of background here of people, like a lot of us knowing a lot of stuff about a lot of things. So, that would be quite helpful.
So, I mean, I think we should slot in a good section of our podcast to help out magicians. So if you're a performer or want to get into performing or have any questions about magic, leave them in this week's episode, and we'll try and catch them up and answer them in the next podcast.
2 weeks episode.
In 2 weeks' time, it'll be a bi-monthly podcast. So leave them below, any questions or tips or advice that you want, or any questions, leave them below, and we'll try and answer as many as we can in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
What are we going to be talking about next?
Whilst it's on the tip of my tongue then, that thing going back to about the believability is something we asked earlier from people as well, but it's that believability. How much do we actually think that people believe these things and these claims that people make, whether it is psychological or not? Because I know, for one, someone like my dad, who's a very practical minded person as well, watching Darren Brown, it's probably the most believable element of it, because it's psychological, and even some of that stuff he's like, no, I don't know, no. But it's that believability. So then why don't we take that as well and have a look at actually people like Uri Geller? Some people, you're always going to get the believers, you're always going to get the non-believers. Let's question that as well. Let's kind of explore that a little bit more. That would be quite an interesting topic.
So next week we will be looking at the believability of past and present performers, whether it's important, and our favourite performers, and why do we like them.
Or not like them.
Or not like them. I mean, they can be favourite without liking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Favourite and least favourite.
Favourite and least favourite. But our question for the week is, how important is it, in your opinion, to be believable? For the performer to be believable? We want a non-magic perspective on how important is it for the performer to be believable. And bonus question, what's your favourite sandwich?
Love it. Yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed listening to this week's podcast. Tune in 2 weeks' time for the same. 3 magicians talking about stuff and shit.
Nice.